All right, greetings. Here's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and welcome to another edition of our Anyone Can Farm live chat call-in show, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I see 10,000 people are waiting, so that's really good. Oh, now lowered to 5,000, just with a stroke of a pen. All right, what a week, what a week. Here's what I have planned. This morning, I was talking with somebody about the comment that Michael Bloomer had made. And he said that farmers aren't very smart and that he could teach anyone to farm. And we were talking about that, and it was kind of funny, his choice of words. And I thought, maybe I'll weigh in on that. But then the mail came, and one of the kids had to go out and sign for a package. And it's this long, great big long package. And when I unwrapped it, it had this in it. And this is a grow light. And it's an LED. LED is a light emitting diode. And it's got some pretty fancy apparatus on it. You can hang it up. And I don't have a grow light. It's definitely something on my bucket list. But there was a really old school letter that came with it. And I enjoy that, because it's just nice to get somebody that handwrites something to you and took the time to do this. But I talked to this guy briefly to see if he'd mind if I talked about this tonight. But he says, and he didn't mind, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him about what his background is. But he says to me, "Dear Flyboy, all right, thank you for not purchasing your light. Seriously, though I like your videos, so here you go." All right, so we haven't gotten a light yet, and so he sent this one to us, and I thought that's really nice. And it's got a lot of specs on this light and what it's used for and things like that. Really very helpful. And then he said, if you have any questions, just call me. And I think what we'll do is we'll make a project out of this. From what I know so far, this is intended to hang up above a table that's probably about 3 by 4, I think, yeah. 3 feet by 4 feet. Yeah. For greens, kale, chard, lettuce, stuff like that, and about 2 by 4 for heavy fruiters like tomatoes, not to be used on sprouts. And then even this time of the year, if you can keep the soil warm, so in a room like this probably, I don't know, maybe the next room over would be better, but we'll see, because I got to do some research on this. This light, I just talked with James, and he said this light is worth $250 to $300. So it's not for the faint of heart, but if you can grow greens in the wintertime, in the dead of winter, right in the living space that you're in, I think it would pay for itself in a couple of years, for sure. These lights typically go to people that are growing things that bring a little bit higher dollar. In this state, you can grow marijuana. I don't do it. I know people that do. It's legal to do. It's not something I probably will do. But I think it'll be a fun project to take you along on. It's great content. It's interesting. And who knows where it's going to lead? That's the fun thing about this whole farming thing. Who knows where it's going to lead? So I just like to say thank you very much to James. And as we're going along, James makes these in his basement and he sells them. So if any of you are interested in getting a grow light like this, we will put his contact info in the description. Not today though, because I don't have it. So I'm gonna need, oh, do we? We did get an email from him, didn't we? He said he sent an email and said, don't look at this thing when you turn it on. It's like 40,000 lumens. It's very, very bright. So this is very well made. You see those, every one of those is an LED light emitting diode. And we did plug it in this morning. It's extremely bright. So having it in this room might not be the way to go, but I mean, there's a lot to know about this. I got to do a bunch of research, but I'm going to call James back and hopefully he can fill me in on some stuff on this. But I think it'd be a great project and we'll do it. I mean, it fills in kind of a gap during this time of the year. All right. So tonight, things are going to be a little bit different. Last time we went over 2 hours and that person wasn't very happy with me when it was over. I was having a great time and I'm more than willing to go a little bit longer this time of the year. But Jill will be cutting out at 1 hour. She's just going to get up and walk away. All right. So we got to put kids to bed. So that's the big thing. And when she does that, I will be donning my grandpa glasses and I'll be reading for myself. So this coming April, I'm going to be 60 years old. I will be entering my 60th year on planet Earth. So I guess it's okay if I wear glasses now. I can actually read that pretty well, but with glasses on, it stands out. And I'd just like to remind you that if you have questions, please put those questions in all caps. And when I see it, I'll know. But after the 1 hour point, I probably won't be typing back to you like Jill does. Jill interacts during this whole session, gives out information that Jill knows. Okay, so as I told you, I have some really important information to pass on, and this is no joke. Everybody's heard about what's going on in China. And there's part of me that hears the extremes, and I think, well, it's someplace in the middle, you know. And mainstream media, we don't really see mainstream media very much. Maybe once in a while it'll come up on my Facebook page or something like that. But I don't see a whole lot about it. There are intelligence channels that you can listen to and you can get the inside poop. Some guys are saying, it's not really happening. There was a lot of upheaval in, what's the name of that city? Wuhan. And it was a way for the Chinese government to just get everybody off the streets because they're rebelling against communism is basically what it is. And it's happening in a lot of places throughout the country. It's even happening in the United States. Not to that extent. And so I just didn't really know. I do know that a couple of days ago, China shut off all travel out of their country. That's huge. That is huge. So today I probably wouldn't have brought this up because I really don't know enough about it. I don't know the details of it. And I'm not sure of any of the details that I would get are the truth. So I probably wouldn't bring it up. And you just stay with me for a minute and you'll see why I'm bringing it up. I had a conversation with a guy on a totally different subject. This is a guy that I go to for information. This guy is just an information hound. And we had something to discuss today, and I was making some small talk with him, and I said, hey, this guy teaches the English language to Chinese people. And he does it from right here in Michigan. So he does it sort of like this. So he has clients in China who pay him money to teach their kids how to speak English. He has businessmen there that pay him to teach him teach him how to teach them how to speak English. And he's been doing this long enough where he gets a feel of what's going on in the country. So, getting a phone call right now, my other phone. So I said to him, so what's the real deal? What's really going on there in China? And he is telling me people have told him this that are in China, right? That are stuck in their apartments, and as they're communicating this language class, they're telling him what's going on. So this isn't like, somebody read it in the Telegram and Gazette or anything. This is firsthand testimony is what I would call this. And I believe this guy. He had no reason to lie to me. He was just telling me this is what they're saying. And apparently it is as bad as any report that I've heard on alternate media, YouTube, things like that. It's as bad as that, or worse. People are getting pulled right out of their homes. The authorities come in and they temp everybody. And if you have a fever, they're taking you. So anybody that has this virus, this coronavirus, is being separated from their families, and they're setting up actually concentration areas for people that have the virus. They want to separate everybody from the sick people from the healthy people and hope that they can get a handle on it. The problem is, now there's nothing we can do about that. And I am not here to tell you that it's coming to the United States. I'm not. I don't know about that. But what I do know is that the people there are suffering extreme hardship because the truck drivers are not bringing the food into the cities. This was a long conversation. He told me the huge separation there is between people who live in the city and people who live out in farm country, like in the middle of China, way, way out there. The farm people do not transport. They do not transport. They don't transport their goods into the city. There's a whole different class of people that does that. The Chinese society is communist, and it is highly compartmentalized. So if you are a farmer, you don't have the option to move to the city. You're a farmer, that's it. If you wanted to move to the city, you would have to ask permission, and then most likely they wouldn't give it to you because who would backfill you on the farm? But that's kind of beside the point. So in Wuhan, the number was 80% of Wuhan's GDP comes out of Wuhan. 80%. Every store, every shop, every factory is closed. 100%, they're closed. Police stations are open, but they're losing cops like you wouldn't believe because they're coming down with this virus and it's deadly. Some people are dying very quickly from it. The problem, as we see it, is, according to us, the problem is that many, many, many components come out of China into the United States and into our manufacturing. So if you have an automobile that's being built and 2% of the parts for that automobile are built in China, well, that's just 2%. You cannot send it out if it's incomplete. It has to be complete. So this slowdown in components coming from China is huge, all right? Zippers are made in China. Just about everything you buy at Shopko and Walmart and Sam's Club and you name it is all coming out of China. So that's Chinese junk. We can live without that, right? let's wait a minute on that. Let's wait a minute. Will that slow down our transportation system? Will a slowdown in our transportation system result in less produce on our shelves? What about our electric grid? I mean, I don't have any inside intel on this, but maybe some of the components that we use on the grid come out of China. Could be, huh? I don't know. I don't know for sure. But one thing we want to start looking for is when you see gaps on the shelf at the store, you know, let's say some good that comes out of China that you don't really need, but you see a gap on the shelf. That is a flag. That's a red flag to let you know that the supply chain, the burp in the supply chain has arrived to the United States. Now, it was incredibly stupid to have components for US automobiles built in China. It was incredibly stupid. It's incredibly stupid for us to import steel from Japan, from China. Stupid. But we've made a lot of mistakes as a country in the past. And now these poor guys have this virus. Is it a bioweapon? Is it from eating bat soup? That's neither here nor there. The problem is real, according to this fellow that I was talking to today. And I consider this firsthand information. And here it comes. Okay, so right now, you might have a month. You might have a month. Let's say you have 2 weeks before there's gaps, big gaps. This burp comes, this supply chain burp comes. Could it affect a lot of other things? Yes, it could. So what do you do? What do you do now? And I mean, this is up our alley because we're farmers and we're not necessarily preppers, but you're always preparing for the next season. I am, you know, this thing I'm going to do with this light here, I'm going to sprout seeds so that I can get them in the greenhouse earlier than I would have and have corn, you know, for a longer period of time than everybody else does. You know, I'm preparing, and I'm overcoming the problem of it being 10 degrees outside with a little bit of technology here. So my message here, and I feel very strongly about this. We sat down the other day, Jill and I did, at breakfast, and we made what in the military we would call a 24-hour list. So if we get an alert that something is coming, and we need to be ready for it, what are we going to do in the next 24 hours? Okay. And I would encourage you to make this list. And I would like to see some questions regarding this. I'd like this conversation to go for a little while tonight because this is very important stuff. We may breeze through this. We may not. But there's a peace of mind that comes from being prepared. And there's a saying, I don't know if it's a military saying, but I think that's probably where I heard it because it seems like I don't hear any new sayings anymore. So is you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the next fattest camper. All right. So we're not going to get everybody in the lifeboats, but I'm getting in the lifeboat, right? I'm getting in the lifeboat. So this is what I want you to do too. So I thought maybe we should spend a little bit of time right now talking about what goes on your 24-hour list. So you get an alert that in 24 hours there's going to be a problem and you're going to have to dig in. Now, what items can you get that will enhance your chances of survival? Okay. Let's make a mental note of this and let me kind of discuss the things that Jill and I wrote down. And, you know, I've been thinking this way my whole life. I was a Boy Scout. I was military for 20 years. I told this story before. I was sent to a location to go do something with a bunch of other guys, and I was told what to take. And I was supposed to bring 6 MREs with me in my pack, but them things are heavy. And I just knew better. So I didn't bring mine with me, right? And I think one other airman didn't bring his either. When we got there, the second airplane that was supposed to come broke and couldn't show till the next day. And that had the food on it. I didn't starve, but I was an airman and I was not about to tell my sergeant that, hey, I didn't bring my food. Can I have some of yours? I wasn't about to do that because it would have resulted in a butt kicking, and I didn't want to enunciate my foolishness. So I just, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not hungry. I was a little bit hungry going to bed that night, but the mental stress of it was something that I'm not going to go through again. I mean, I was very young at the time, and on the way out there, something really bad happened that resulted in somebody's grave injury, not one of our guys, but somebody else. And it's the first time seeing something like that. So I was feeling sick anyway, but from that, I still can remember what that feels like to be without, and everybody else was sitting there eating on their MREs, and I was not. No, I'm good. I'm full. I'll just have some water. So I don't want that to happen, and I don't want that to happen to you either. There's nothing worse than being a minute late when there was plenty of stuff the minute before. So 24-hour list. What things do you need? Okay, let me run down what I need here, and you can take from that what you want. My first item on the list is fuel. Okay, the fuels that I use here is diesel fuel, gasoline, wood, propane. Okay, propane I don't need so much. That's more of a summertime thing, but there's no reason why I shouldn't top my tank off. You know, I don't use it to heat the house or anything like that. We just use it for the chicken butchering operation. I don't really need it. It's not going to be something I would go for on the 24-hour list unless I got to 15 hours and I still had time. Might as well get some propane, you know, then I would. Diesel fuel was number one for me. Diesel fuel is number one. For me, I don't have any diesel trucks or anything like that, or cars, but I have a diesel generator that runs my well pump. And if I want to, I can run the entire farm off that generator. I have a gasoline generator, and then I have a really small gasoline generator. My number 2 fuel would be gasoline, right? I have big tanks, farm tanks that I can fill. And even if they're full, if they're topped off, I'm still going to go and I'm going to top off any vehicles that I have or anything else, if I can, on my 24-hour list. If I get a 24-hour notification and all my tanks are topped off and I'm good to go, then it's like, okay, well, I'll go to the next thing on my 24-hour list. All right. And you want to do this because the worst thing would be to get a notification via, hey, the lights aren't working. What's going on here? That would be a bad notification. Okay. But for me, if I have diesel, I have water. And water is very essential to me because I have livestock that I have to water. If they don't get water, they're going to get really upset. Now, I do have a backup to that. I have a hand pump, and we kind of ran our 24-hour list the other day, and I realized that I was missing. I'm still missing it. I don't see it. I went and bought it. Where's that flapper for the water pump?
It's here. Oh, right there.
Okay. We have a hand pump, you know, that you can pump water out of. And that's my backup. So it takes these parts. This is a leather, and this is a leather seal. And they usually only last about 1 season. If you leave water in it and it rusts, it doesn't even last that long. But with these, I can replace the ones that are in my hand pump. I actually have 2 hand pumps. and I can screw it on there, and I can put one of the kids on there pumping water all day. I mean, we can pump troughs full, and we can water cattle, and we can do all kinds of stuff. It's actually not a bad thing, because that takes up time in the day. Okay, my number 2 on the list was food. Okay, now we're in pretty good shape for food, but with a $100, you can go to the store and you can just load up $100 worth of canned goods, sardines. Who cares what it is? Just something that you can eat, but there's nobody else there. Now, if we have a problem and you go there and you want to buy $100 worth of sardines or whatever, you're going to have everybody else trying to buy that. And you don't want to be there when everybody else is there. So go now, get whatever you can afford in food and bring it home. Inventory it, put it someplace where it's safe. And, if nothing goes down this time, every time you go, get a little bit extra and add it to your stores, right? Your survival stores. All right. And then, we can talk about what kind of foods to buy all day long, but when you get in a scenario where it's just a survival scenario, you need water, you need food, you need a place to stay, right? Because here I am in the north. I got to have a place to stay. We can't stay outside. I mean, we like to think we can, but we can't. So I need to keep this place heated too. I mean, we could shrink everything down and just have a little wood stove going, and we could all live in this part of the house, and things would be fine. I'm sure it won't last forever. But if it did, we'd still be okay. And, while the bear is picking off all the other campers, we're sitting tight, we're staying fed, we're staying hydrated, we're staying clean, which is important, keeping our morale up. And life can be sucking out there, but we'll be okay. We're not eating T-bones or anything, although we might, but we're okay. So what kind of food do you buy? You buy, dried beans. They last forever. And to prepare them, you just water beans. They'll soak it up. You can eat them just like that. Or you can chew on dried beans. We're talking about a survival scenario. So any calories that you can get is going to be better than no calories. And you really don't want to be out there with everybody else that's freaking out because there's no food in the store. You just don't want to do that. You want to be home. Now, just a side note, you might want to go out there, but you don't have to get involved. If you could get some food in that scenario, maybe you would. But if it's too rough and it's too risky, stay out of it, because that's the time when you really don't want a deep cut or anything like that. You want to stay far away from it as you can and look hungry, right? But then come back to your place and dig in, all right? But the reason for going out would be to gather intel to see what the hell's going on, because maybe the radio's not working or something like that. Do I hear something beeping?
It's on the TV.
Okay. All right. The next thing on the list after food for us was I wanted to put together a battery pack. Now I have a lot of batteries around here for my flashlights and stuff, but what I like to do is build kits. All right. So I have some sort of container. That's where all the batteries are at. And because if they're in like my dresser, the top drawer of my dresser where they are now, the kids will go and steal them for all kinds of things. And then they leave the old ones in there, and it's not good. So I want to build a battery kit with all my types of batteries that I use, and, keep them rotated so we have fresh batteries in there. It can go a long way. I mean, having a flashlight at night gives you a tremendous advantage. I'll tell you one thing. When I was in the military, I was on an exercise one time. A guy wanted to borrow my flashlight. I loaned it to him. right? Because he didn't have one. He almost walked off with my flashlight. And where I was, I would have been in really deep doo-doo if I didn't have a flashlight. He almost walked off with it. He just thought he could. Guy outranked me by a lot. So maintain your own personal equipment. There's a lot of other things now. If you have a place and you can keep it heated, that's good. A lot of people say that you need medical supplies. I mean, if you take some sort of prescription and you can be 2 months ahead, again, you're outrunning the next fattest camper there, because you may not be able to get that stuff from the pharmacy. A lot of this medicine that people use, we don't use any medicine here, but a lot of medicine people use comes from China. A lot of antibiotics come from China, which is bad. And I think everybody's situation is different, but you should look around and see what it is that you might be missing out of if this burp hits the United States the way my friend today said that it is going to hit the United States. All right. I don't have the 24-hour list in front of me. It's someplace. Do you remember what the next item was on it? I mean, we're pretty uptight.
Not totally. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, it was animal feed. We want to make sure we have enough for the animals. And then we talked about procedures. What are we going to do? Like if we see the end of the road for our feed supply for some of our animals, well, we can't let them starve, and they are really here to feed us. Depending on the time of the year, we just may butcher them and get them put in cans or other froze or something like that. If one of these scenarios goes down, you're going to want to keep people busy. I don't think we'll be painting like I was today if a scenario like this goes down. I think we'll be, working at preparations, keeping our preps up, doing what we can. There's many, many things that are unique to my property that I would want to make sure are in place. Myself, I would want to have a lot of water built up, even in the wintertime. So probably in the outer shop, in my butcher shop, I would probably start to heat that. I have a wood stove in there, and I would bring UBC totes in there, and I would load them with water. While my generator's running, I will load as much water as I can. I'd only run the generator for as long as it took to load all the waters up, and then I would shut it down. In the house, we don't need electricity in here. All the heating and cooking and everything can all be done on the wood stove. We can make coffee on the wood stove. Maybe while we're loading water up and the generator is on, it has far more capacity than just that little pump. So we might charge batteries. We might, I don't know, do a load of laundry. I don't think we'd use the dryer, but we would probably use the washer just to stay ahead, try and keep things as normal as possible. Keep people clean, make sure you just, hey, once you get in there, take a bath, so everything appears as normal as we can keep it. We're a farm, and if food is in short supply, I'm way out in the perimeter, and I don't anticipate, a bunch of visitors. But you have to start making those decisions now. Are you going to take care of people? Which people are you going to take care of? I mean, the way I look at it is, in farming, we preach fair trade. If I give you something, I got to have something in return. If you give me something, I don't feel right unless I've given you something in return. Money is not always a good thing in the farm community. A lot of times I need stuff that money won't do me any good. I might need help just like moving something, and somebody's got a big enough tractor to move it. That's big help. And my neighbors have helped with stuff like that. And I have some elderly neighbors that I would probably look after as well. And I have some young neighbors that I would probably put to work here, and they would definitely carry their weight, because we are a a food producing facility, and we can pour more coals to it if we have to produce more food. It might not be an immediate thing, but the promise of calories is there. Can I start feeding the whole town? I can't. I can't do that. A lot of people, on this channel, I think people are going to take heed of what I'm saying. But I have people right in my immediate circle of people that I would say this to, and they'd say, it'll be, they have plenty of food at Walmart. We'll be all right. Everything's going to be fine. And, it's turned out that way now for a long time. I've been a prepper for a long time. I used to be a survivalist, but now I'm just a prepper. And really, nothing much has come of it. Y2K came and went. Everything worked out all right. But this is different. There is concrete proof that there is a supply chain interruption. Never mind the virus. If the virus comes here, we're going to want to isolate ourselves and not go out because, anything that we can do to increase our chances of survival, we will do if we have time to do it. Let's, a means of protection, okay? In a situation like this, all interactions have to be done from a position of power, of strength, not weakness. So if you've done the prepping that you need to, and you're good to go, you've lengthened out your time, it's okay to arm up. It is okay to arm up because you will have people that may want to just take your stuff. A guy said to me one time, he says, I don't need to prep. All I need is a 45 and the address of a Mormon. And when I heard that, remember who that was?
I don't, but
It was in Montana. I won't say it on the air. A good guy, and he just kind of said it as a kind of a joke. But if you don't prep, if you don't get yourself ready, then don't expect anybody to do it for you. Okay, just don't. Do your own thing, and you can't be stealing from anybody. And right now, we have to make sure that people understand we won't be stolen from. If we're preparing to keep our families fed and safe, that's what we'll do. I'm not going to let somebody steal from me. All right. So there you go. Here, there'd be a lot of security measures that I'd probably put in place. And I think that's something that everybody needs to think about. For me, I told this to the kids the other day. We don't want a bunch of different ways to drive into our central area. The compound. It's not a compound. But we don't want a bunch of ways to drive in, because if a vehicle can speed in to the center of where we are and then 4 or 6 guys deploy, we might be in the bathroom reading a magazine and it could be too late, So we have to make it so there's only one way in, and it is not easy, immediately accessible, and we would probably post someone there so nobody gets caught flat-footed, if a vehicle comes in to the main area here. All right.
hey, Haven.
That's my thing. Haven, yes.
What about calm? Have you thought about calm?
Yeah, I have thought about calm. The thing is, I think you need to be your own autonomous place, You need to have as much resources gathered up close to you as you can, and not like comic books or pajamas. Those aren't going to do me. Just the essentials, food, water, place to stay, means to protect it. All right. Calm. The calm that I would look at if I was you, Haven, would be shortwave And don't worry, buy a shortwave set. You can get them pretty cheap, and get one that's a two-way, like a ham set or a marine set. Worry about the licensing later. And for now, just get it so you can listen to it. And if there's a tough scenario, what difference does it make if you have a license for it, an FCC license? If you've got to say, hey, who knows what's going on over in Bogle Center, because I need to travel over there, I wish we had, I wish I had a ham radio. I really wish I do. I have other military friends around here that do, and that is one of the things on my list of things that I need. I probably got a guy listening to me right now that is saying, you've been saying that for a long time, Mark. Yeah, I have. But I'd like to have a nice ham radio set right there that when we power up our generator, we can listen to it and find out what's going on. Because that might be part of the problem is we might not be able to go to Facebook to find out what's happening or anything else if we're out of power. And things change, the situation changes, daily. So it would be nice to have a ham radio. As far as like handheld sets, you can get 5-6 mile sets, so you can talk to each other, which would be good for security. So let's say you want to put out a security post, you want to put people out far away from your location so they can, nobody catches you in the bathroom. It's called what military calls them LPOPs, listening post, observation post. And that could be a concealed position, like down the end of the road. So if somebody drives by, you don't stop them. You just say, hey, there's people coming up, and that's a good idea. Those LPOPs you would build now, and then you would camouflage them. You would camouflage them to go with the season, and you would have a route to get there that, your tracks would not be seen if you could do that. And it can be done. It can definitely be done. Trust me, it can be done. Little side note on that, you would keep things in that LPOP that would be there all the time. They stay there, like ammunition that's common to the weapons that you may be using. So the ammunition that's in the LPOP, in a worst case scenario, it gets used up first. And then the ammunition that you have on you goes with you. All right, that's the way that's done. All right, I can take some questions if we want to stay on that subject for a while, or if you guys want to talk about something else, that's fine with me. But the big thing is think about what you need to do and get it done. Maybe even get it done tonight, because we're going to get done here at 9 o'clock. You still have time. Something can go down during the night. I'm not saying it's gonna. I don't know that. I just know that this burp is coming this way, and I couldn't not share this with you in good conscience.
Why not just stock real bleach?
You're thinking real bleach?
Maybe
for water.
We were talking water filtration, and I mentioned that we have the Berkey, and Charles Bookwalter has iodine filtration and bleach.
Yeah.
He said in Afghanistan we use charcoal.
Yeah. Well, in my situation, I have a pump. I have a well. I have a big well, and I have 2 small wells. The old ones, and then the newer one. The newer one is deeper, and so that's the water that I want. It's purer than the water that we had, and that's why we replaced it. So I would not be storing water for me, in UBC totes. I would be storing water for me I have 5-gallon jerry cans that we keep up here at the house. Sometimes we put lemonade in them, stuff like that. We use them in the summertime. So that would be where my water would come from, my drinking water. Water for the animals would be stored down in the shop in totes, and all their troughs would be full. But I think what he's talking about is if we were going to go down to the pond and scoop water out of there for us to drink, then you would purify it with bleach. Now, I'm not going to have to do that. because I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. This is where my life is. I'm not going to, talk about bugging out. Bad idea, by the way. But when they talk about that, they're talking about if you have to drink out of a muddy hoof print, that you're going to want to put a couple drops of something in it before you do. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. That bugging out is for the birds. Unless maybe you live in Chicago or someplace like that where it's just going to be a nightmare, which I just couldn't do that because it would just be it would weigh on me way too much to live someplace like that or a city like that. But the bugging out scenario I don't think is good because you're going to wind up out in the woods? It's better in the woods? And what if like 2 other families come and you can see them and you have more food than they do? What are you going to be in the woods so you can shoot a deer to live? It's not all it's cracked up to be. It really isn't. You're better off to prep things at your place where you are so you can just sit tight. If I lived in town, I would be cutting sheets of plywood that I could put over the windows in a room in the house that I could light that room when it's dark. And then the rest of the house, you could be sitting by the windows, totally dark, and you could see out. But the lighted room would be lighted and heated. So that's where you would go to take your break during the night. In a bad scenario like this, you're not sleeping at night all night. That's when things happen. That's when you're going to be awake, or the men are going to be awake, or half the team is going to be awake, or the better half of the team would be awake. And you would sleep during the day for a couple hours or here and there where you could get it. And that you would sleep in a central area where somebody can wake you up real quick if something goes down that you need to attend to. But I wouldn't plan on leaving my house. I would want to stay there until the place cleared out and then see what's happening. But if you can stay in and everything clears out, then you can see what's going on. You just want to buy time. Every day that clicks by and you're well hydrated and fed and all that. But then you got to start thinking, let's say it goes 2 weeks. Everybody's freaking out because there's no food, but you're doing fine. You're sitting out there eating a carrot on your front porch. That's not going to work. You're going to get overrun. So that's something that you have to think about. I can't really tell you what to do on that. If you feel as though you want to give up all your food to your neighbors who haven't prepped, chances are they're not going to be economy minded. In a situation like we're talking here, you're going to lower your caloric intake so you can stretch your food out further. So there you go. Is there a question?
Are you ready for farming questions?
Sure. Any kind of question you got.
And then we'll just comment. So it's online.
Pepper them in if you want.
Yeah. HVAC Bear 8. And I think you've talked to him.
Yeah.
Mentioned fire control because otherwise someone can burn you out. From experience, he's speaking.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, that's if you're kind of under siege and you never want to get there. You never want to defend your home from in your home. You want to defend your home from a place where you can get a good bird's eye view of your home while your loved ones are in your home. You're out and you can see it very closely you got a good view of it and you have a good field of vision. And, if somebody did decide to burn you out, that's kind of an act of aggression. And at that point, you have to do what you have to do. You may have to use bad language at that point. So you never want to defend your home from in your home if you can help it. You want to defend it from outside your home. That's what an LPOP is. Get the picture. Your home is here. You put your LPOPs out about 300 yards in a concealed area where you can watch The roadways coming in, you're right on it, but you're concealed. And that way, if something goes past you and has to get back out, it might be difficult for them to get back out. So, how's that?
You ready for farming questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Paul's first in line.
All right, Paul.
Is it okay to breed a boar back to his mother or sister?
You know what? That's a good question. That's a good question. I've been heard to say many times that we try to mimic nature, right? So if you have a sounder, you're going to have the most mature boar, and he's going to be the toughest one because he's still alive. And he's going to do the breeding. So he's going to be breeding his daughters, his wives, his mom. Yeah, he'll be breeding his mom. And how did the wild pig population, how does it do so well? You know, if that's going on and that's not a good thing. I do know that when we had white pigs, just call them regular farm pigs, and we had an oops where we had litter mates that bred, and it happened a couple times. We would get what we called whups, world ugliest pigs, and they were not in good shape. So, but those are pigs that, you know, they're the hybridized white pigs that come out of CAFOs. When I first got here, the only pigs I could get was from a CAFO. And the guy just sold me like 10 little pigs, and we just bred them, you know. Didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, we got pigs and we definitely had production going, but it wasn't really very good. So my answer is you can if you have to, but it would be better if you didn't. And when things start to go south on your breeding program, that's the time when you got to bring something new in. And you can know it's from a different bloodline, you know. So at some point you got to put aside all this, you know, pure, I've got pure Mangalitsas. You got to put that aside if your breeding program is starting to really suffer, and you might need to bring something else and breed it in and then breed it back out if you want your pigs to look a certain way or have certain characteristics. And it can be done in a couple of generations.
What about cattle? Follow on question.
Well, that's what I think it would be the same thing when you think about a herd bull in an elk herd. He's the one that does the breeding, right? So would it work? Oh, it definitely work. Are you setting up the best scenario for yourself? You know, I can't really say, because interbreeding is done intentionally at times. And they'll do that because it shakes things up, and then out of that litter, it's done in pigs. You may have some that are poor, but you may have some that their characteristics are favorable. You know, you know, wow, look at this dumb thing, came out an inch longer. Well, let's try that. You know, that suits our needs. Is it a good thing? It depends on what you're doing. So with cattle,
It probably depends. Like our pigs, the heritage breeds have a deeper genetic well to draw from.
yeah.
And that's why, is my hypothesis, that you can line breed heritage hogs pretty safely, where the hybridized hogs have a pretty shallow gene pool. And I'd imagine that most species of animals are about the same. If they haven't hybridized them,
Yeah.
there's a deeper pool there that they're mixing up.
Yeah. I hope that helps. We're kind of talking this through to see I wouldn't do it if I didn't have to do it. If it was a bad scenario where you didn't have it was dangerous to go borrow somebody else's bull or dangerous to go get a different boar, then by all means, go ahead and do it. And you might want to try it anyway. you know, what do you got to lose? It's not like you're going to have a volcano. And I don't think I've intentionally done it, but I know in some of the university books that I have, they do talk about intentional breeding of litter mates for, a hybrid vigor situation. That's all I know about that. We don't usually do it.
Alrighty. Is this Brittany heard this at work? Is it true that mangas are banned in Michigan and Wisconsin, or were they at some point? She knows that we're in Michigan, and so that must be false, but
Not true.
it's out there and she heard it.
Yeah, that stems from the whole feral swine initiative, and that started here in Michigan, and they tried to say that pigs with certain characteristics are feral, and it was way misconstrued and blown out of proportion, but it finally wound up in a court case, and we know about that intimately because it was actually us. And when everything was said and done, the pigs, there was no ban, and there never really was a lawful ban anyway. They came out with a ruling, and it was meant to make people question what they were doing. And it was so nebulous that you just didn't want to get in trouble, so a lot of people got out. But it didn't go anywhere. They tried to. And it's something that it's a great case history to look at, because Department of Agriculture is famous for trying to pick winners and losers, at least in the time that I've known of them. They're saying this is good, this is bad. And when you question what they say, they don't like it very much. But I will just tell you, no, Mangalitsas are not outlawed any place. To be outlawed, they'd have to make a law. And, to make a law, you have to have a bill that goes through the House, then goes through the Senate, and is signed into law by the governor. And that takes a lot of time, and it's a very difficult thing to do because, if you haven't noticed, politicians don't agree very much. There's two sides of the House, they never agree. It'd be virtually impossible for them to get a law like that. So for a certain pig to be outlawed, there would have to be a law in the first place, as there is no law. These agencies do make up rules, and then they float the rule as though it's law. But that's part of the reason for the tribe and for this, is so we can run this stuff to ground. And like I said, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this, because it was my family that sued the state over it. So I know what I'm talking about right there. Trust me. You got one pig, right, Brittany? Good for you, though. Good for you. I'm glad one of them made it. I'm glad. I have a litter now that only has two. So it happens. If you go back through my videos, I showed a farrowing and it reminded me of you, because she started going the night before, and I went out there and I clocked the porta hut so that the opening was facing southeast, and that's usually where the wind comes from here. So I moved it around. So I'm good to go. I'm good to go. And she was having babies. Went in the house. It was February. During the night, the wind swung around and came right out of the north. And where we are, when the wind comes out of the north, it's usually accompanied by precipitation. So it started snowing. The hut blew in full of snow, and it was very cold. I think it was 15 below that night. And when I came out, she was out there laying, and all of her babies were icicles, and they were all dead. And so I made a video of it because I wanted to show that, hey, this happens, if you think that every operation we run here works, I'm here to tell you it doesn't. And that was heartbreaking because they were really nice pigs, and it's a lot of money, and it's just a morale killer, because you've just had 10 babies and they're all frozen. And if I'd somehow gotten up in the night and clocked the hut a different position to the south, we'd have been fine, but best intentions, that's the way it goes. Another guy, Paul, we better get a testimony from you, brother, because he was farrowing, and he was calling me to ask some questions, and his mother pig did not go in her hut. And his huts, I think, are kind of small. So she would have gone in, turned around, so her snout is facing out, and then proceeded to start to farrow. Well, she went 10 hours, and then he reached up into her and got a little hoof and pulled it out, and it was a dead baby. It was stuck inside of her. She would have gone septic and possibly died, and not let her milk down and all that stuff. But he saved the day. But she went outside. Had she gone inside, he would have never been able to get in behind her. And if he did, there's no room in there to work. So, every time you go through something like that, you learn a whole bunch, and you can apply it to the next time you do it. I think, if you can stay away from farrowing in the wintertime like that, then do it. It just takes management. Try to farrow in the early spring and then in the fall, and then just stay away from it. Get your boar out, get them someplace else so you don't have a problem like that. Remember, their gestation is 114 days. So just get a calendar and do the figuring on it, and you're going to hit it. They cycle every 30 days. So you're going to hit it within, plus or minus a month. You should make it. How's that?
Very good. Paul said the baby lived.
Oh, the baby lived. Paul, you
Yeah.
better get that testimony out. That was a powerful story. And I almost didn't hear it because I was going someplace and I was not in the mood at that moment to hear that story, but I'm glad you did tell me that story anyway. So it was a powerful story. It's the first time Paul's been through something like that. And here he was, a new guy, a first timer, with his arm this far into a pig. And he'd never done anything like that. So it's one of those things that you do in your life that you look back on and say, that was quite the event. But, once you've done something like that, is it really going to freak you out to stick your arm into, a cow if you have to get something out of a cow? Or, you now that your capabilities are much more than you thought they were. Is there another question?
Yeah. Mike had a question.
Mike Finn.
Nope, Mike Feeney.
Oh, Feeney. Okay,
Oh.
Feeney. I saw your post on the tribe today. You just got a 5.5 acre place, and you're getting pretty psyched about getting some things going. I know that. Embrace that time. Start a journal, right? So you can remember the things that you think about now. You're so charged up, going to sleep at night, thinking about what you're going to do. Get a journal going. I wished I did.
Yeah, well, his question was, have you raised sheep? Is processing difficult? What's the best age to process?
With sheep. Yeah, we've raised sheep a bunch of different times. We have some now. As far as processing, they're no different to process than a deer. There's a lot of different things with sheep that you don't have with deer. Like they have lanolin on their their wool, and you don't want to get that on the meat, and it does get on your hands while you're doing it. And you don't want to mix that with the meat, so you want to get them scun and get the hide away. What's the best time to process them? It depends who you are. Like, there's a lot of religious people that eat lambs. In my opinion, lambs have like no flavor, sort of like a calf. They're very flavorless. So for me, on a sheep, I would say about a year and a half or two. But then when you get into the older sheep, the mutton, I'm not sure I like that flavor. I don't know if I do. It's been such a long time since I had it, but I remember when I was, I shouldn't say, because last time I had it, I was a kid. And, just the name, mutton. Who wants to have some mutton? Doesn't sound good. They should rename it. They'd probably sell more of it. So I don't know. I have a couple sheep right now, but it's not because I really like sheep. It's because I'm taking care of them for a friend of mine. And they're kind of pets, It's actually a friend of mine that passed away, so I kind of keep them because they remind me of her. So, and they deserve a decent life. They don't eat much, but I don't think they're ever going to be mutton. They're pretty old now. Yeah. I think they're over 5 years old now. Maybe that, all of that. So, and they're not hard to keep. I think there's a reason why the Bible refers to people as sheep, though. I think there's a reason for that. I'm not a big fan of sheep or goats. They're hard on fences. They're really picky eaters. But I think sheep are better than goats. And I'm not really a goat guy. We've had a lot of goats, but goats are really wasteful. There's not much there on the carcass. They're noisy.
Although in a survival scenario, they can be pretty easy keepers.
Yeah, that's true. In a survival,
browse and
yeah, that's true. They would eat. A goat will eat stuff that a sheep won't. A goat will eat stuff that a cow won't. So yeah, they could be in a tough scenario. They could be pretty good. And I saw there was a super chat there.
Yeah, from Charles Bookwalter.
Charles Bookwalter. Where do we know him from?
I think you talked to him on the phone. He's been on here the last few weeks.
I'm sorry, Charles. I don't remember. But thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice of you. I do have something to talk about along those lines that I will try and get to in a little bit.
Lone Star wondered what size stock trailer fits your needs.
I have two of them. I have a 15-footer that I pull behind my F-250 1974 Ford Ranger. And I don't use that all that much. That's that one that I painted a couple years ago. I think I posted pictures of it. They're out there. That's my one for moving cows around. And then I have a smaller trailer that's a single axle. That the stock trailer is a 2-axle and a gooseneck. The single axle one is for moving pigs around, and they're set up completely different. The pig one has a guillotine door in the back that I made. So when the pigs go in, I can, if you push one in, I can actually drop the door, and then they'll go over and they'll sniff the door, but then they'll turn around and go check out the rest of the trailer. And in that time, you can push another one in, another one. I don't know if you wanted to have only one trailer and dollars were not an issue, I would get a stock trailer, aluminum. They're light, they're durable, they don't rust. Up in this part of the world, we have salt on the road, so I don't take mine on the road in the wintertime because I just painted it and I prepped all the rust before I painted it, and I don't want it to just rot away. But I don't use them very much because I do all my processing here. The trailers are part of the past when we were using a USDA butcher shop a lot, and we just don't use it anymore because we do our own. Next.
All right. And this is the last question that I actually have off of here.
Okay.
And this is Mike Feeney again. He's starting a mosquito spraying business. In order to be compliant, I have to get certified and licensed by AG. Would you suggest doing it or going rogue?
By AG, Department of Ag, huh? Yeah, I'd go rogue for sure. Because if you do certify with them, you are on their radar. It's going to cost you every year, and there's always a hook in that. Now, if you call them up and say, Mark said I should go rogue, they're probably going to think you're crazy. But if you just for fun call them up and say, what do I need to do this? And what is it? What's the benefit of doing it? And I'm sure they'll say, well, if you're out spraying for mosquitoes and you get caught without certification, what do you mean if I get caught without certification? Who's gonna, you're out spraying for mosquitoes. Hey, you got your certification on you? I'm from the Department of Ag. You just say, I don't talk to people. I don't talk to strangers. My folks told me not to talk to strangers. Go away. I just would avoid that situation. I haven't seen the mosquito inspectors out lately, so I would go rogue until you feel like you don't need to be rogue. That's me though, Fiend. I know a kid named Michael Feeney. So when I saw your profile on the tribe, I tried to stalk you as best I could because I haven't seen Michael Feeney in 50 years. So he might look different now, like I do, but we were in grade school together. And I looked at your profile and I couldn't tell if we went to grade school together. I just couldn't tell. So I forget what Feeney looks like. All right. Any more questions?
No.
Is that it? Okay. Well, let me talk about this then. Jill and I have an idea, and we've actually started to work on this a little bit. Like in a perfect world, we could have a transporter unit here. And if you wanted to take a class from us on a Saturday, you could pay $5 extra and you would get in your transporter at your place and you would come here just like on Star Trek. We don't have one yet. So what if we get together and we make a video, like a comprehensive video? In the past, we've just screwed around, I do the selfie videos and stuff. But what if my daughter's 15 and she's pretty good at editing and all this stuff, and we're getting pretty good at this. So what if, I'm going to build a corner post the way I do it, and you want to see the way I do it. If you came here, that's how I'd teach it, because that's what I do. That's how I do it. I'm not going to teach you on something that I don't actually do. And so we've made a video and made it as comprehensive as we could at the time. And Jill has actually posted that at bakersgreenacres.com. That's our sales website. And that's where the vlog is, the video blog and the blog, and all the stuff is there. And that is just on the internet. It's a site. And that video is posted there, and you can buy that video. And how much is that one?
Fencing.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
I've
You'll
been
have to go
dealing with
look.
a bunch of them, and so I don't remember right off. I'll put a link also in here to go straight there.
Okay, but that's just for starters. But now that we've sat and talked about it and said, hey, if we wanted to make this really good, and we dedicated a lot of time this summer to videos on how to this, and this. You know, I know what I do, but I'm not going to make a video on something if people aren't going to show any interest in it. And yeah, we're gonna sell it. Once you buy it, you know, for $10 or whatever, it's yours. You can go back to it. You can show it to your friends, whatever. But yeah, just to kind of make ends meet around here. Yeah, we're gonna do that. But what I need from you guys is a little bit of input on what do you want to see? What is it that you want to know about that maybe we know how to do? And you know, I look at stuff on YouTube all the time, and there are some guys that put out excellent quality, but I can't stand to listen to them. And so it's not for me. But there's some guys that really communicate well to me, and those are the guys. So there's all different flavors, and if you are somebody that likes to listen to me and hear my explanation of how I do things, then you know, then it will work. It will work. But what I'd like is some input on things that you would like a video on. Now, what's possible is pastured poultry, and there's, you know, there's several different facets of pastured poultry. You know, there's brooding, there's chicken tractor operations, there's how to build a chicken tractor, there's processing, there's marketing of the birds, all kinds of things. But they would all be separate clips, but they could be very conclusive. You know, we could really add a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, so if we get some input on there, whatever there's more of, that's where we'll start. But I think I would like to have a bunch of courses available on bakersgreenacres.com where you can just go and boop, and then it's yours. And, you know, we can refer people to there all the time. You know, we can do stuff like this. We can do anyone can farm on the road. And then somebody says, well, how do you build a chicken tractor? Instead of stopping and saying, okay, well, you're going to want, I can just say, here's the video right here. It's got everything in it. And then I can go on to the next thing. That was the whole idea of Anyone Can Farm in the first place anyway. And here's what really happened is when people would stop by and say, hey, I just want to see how your operation works. I like that, actually. And I was wasting, or I was utilizing a lot of my time, and I wasn't being compensated for it because I really enjoy showing stuff off and talking with people and stuff. And I was getting some heat from some of my coworkers here about that. So there was a guy here, and he said, you know what, you should just make videos and put them up on YouTube, and then you can just tell people to go there and look at them. And so we did, and they got a lot of looks, pastured poultry for sure, but we never really got into the nitty gritty. You know, I would say, okay, this is our butcher shop. Here's some of the equipment, and today's butcher day. But you couldn't really show it on YouTube. They get irritated about that when they see blood and stuff. But on a video series, we can close up, you know, show everything, how to process a chicken, you know, and plenty of time to show it. So that is the nature of Anyone Can Farm. Oh, I meant to talk about this too. I started talking about this at the beginning. All right. That guy Bloomberg made that statement about farmers the other day. I guess that was several years back. But of course, now he's going to be running for president. And they dug it up, and now it's circulated on social media. But he says, you can teach anybody to farm. So basically, he was saying anyone can farm. But the gist of what he said was any idiot can farm. And that's really not what we're saying. We're saying anyone can farm because they have the right to farm. But he said that, and a lot of people got wrapped around the axle about it. And I was going to weigh in on it about the time the mailman showed up with this light. And I thought, there are so many cool things to do. Why should I waste a second on a commentary on this guy that obviously, I mean, look at him. He's poor guy, and he's throwing stones at farmers. He obviously isn't tracking. He's not too informed, but I'm not going to waste my time with him. Maybe if he wants to come out, he can make nice, and maybe I'll give him an endorsement for president. I probably won't, though. All right, so not a big deal. Hey, have we been on for an hour and 20 minutes? You probably need to take off, and
Yep.
then I
I am
can
gonna shortly. They just got out of the
I can run this by myself.
Yep.
Any more questions?
Yeah, one question. Brittany wanted to know, how long after they have piglets do they come back into heat? We're planning on
It's a good question.
pulling or putting the boar in April. Pulling the boar in April.
She will cycle 4 days after she farrows, and the boar can knock her up. He can. A lot of times in commercial operations, as soon as the babies have their colostrum from the mother, they take the babies and they make her available to the boar at day 4, and that's where she starts again. Doesn't always work, but it has worked here. I'm not interested in seeing her get pregnant right away. It's not, the huge operations try to go 3 times a year. You can't quite fit it in, but they try to get it as close as they can because they're going for maximum piecework. I think twice a year is fine. And I don't think you're wearing her out at twice a year. Not at all. It's not as big a deal to them as it is to, say, a human, I guess. They seem to do, they're built for that. That's what they're designed for. Okay. Are there any more questions?
That's all I've got.
Anybody have any more questions? I would certainly don my glasses and read. Any more prepping questions? No? Okay, I guess we'll sign out. Please be safe. If you haven't signed up over at the tribe, I would ask you to please do so. The tribe is becoming an entity on its own. We are going to do something here soon. It's in the works as I speak, but we are actually engraving 2 different fashions of tomahawks with the Anyone Can Farm logo on the head, and then the Bill of Rights 1 through 5 on one side of the handle and 5 through 10 on the other side of the handle. And we're going to have several different packages available, but we hope to get a nice box that we can put it in and a copy of the Constitution right there, and it will symbolize, our first weapon as farmers against tyranny. Okay, and it will. I think it'll be a nice touch, but we are working on that as we speak. The tomahawks are being procured right now. The guy that's doing the engraving is probably listening to me now. He had to set up his machinery to do that, but they have some really cool ways to do that now. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to make them available on a minimum donation. All right, so we got to cover our costs for sure. And we're not sure what those costs are going to be exactly. The tomahawks right now, they were $30. And then the engraving work, Lee's going to come up with a number on that plus shipping and stuff. So we got to cover our costs, but the tomahawks represent a weapon, with the Bill of Rights on, a weapon against tyranny, right? When it comes to food freedom, every other kind of freedom too. And there's a possibility that we may set those dollars in a fund. Possibility, not 100% sure right now, but when there needs to be an expenditure of dollars for some sort of defense, we will have it. So that's what we're kicking around right now. Would love to have like a lawyer on staff. We'd love to. a constitutional lawyer that would give us really good, tough constitutional law advice on how to proceed on some of these things. But we'd like to go in that direction. I think that's a good direction to go. The best defense is a good offense. Okay. So this is definitely an offensive move. We're putting together a war chest way ahead of time. When we had our problems with the state, we were 6 months behind before we had to say, hey, we need help. We don't have the funds that it takes to do the things that we got to do to defend ourselves here. And we were just fortunate enough. See, we're in a good place. When you talk about freedom, our freedoms are enumerated in the Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech, right? That's being assaulted right now because you can say mostly everything, but you can't say anything that's going to offend certain people. That would be hate speech. That's baloney. That's absolute baloney. If you go by the First Amendment says that you have the right to free speech. It might be offensive. It might be gross, might be dirty, but that's your right. It's not a privilege. It comes from your creator. You have the right to express yourself. This is what we're doing right here. I couldn't do this in China, right? I couldn't do this in Russia either. Oh, by the way, I was on a roll. Oh, yeah. But the position that we find ourselves in with, and I'll just do the air quotes, food freedom. It's freedom, right? But okay, freedom as pertains to our choice of food, what food we're going to eat, what food we're going to produce, who we're going to sell it to, who we're going to buy from, as outlined in the Fifth Amendment of the Bill of Rights, is a good front to focus some attention on. And here's why. If we're going to talk about free speech, the freedom to express ourselves, about half the population would say, yeah, but you can't say this. You can't offend people. If it's offensive to people, no good. Now, I don't go with that argument, but they do, right? And so we're divided on that. We're divided 50-50. So that's not a good one. That's not a good front to attack. I don't want to be attacking my own friends, The gun issue, about half my friends think the NRA is evil, and they have the right to feel that way. I think they've dropped the ball in a lot of ways, but I don't think they're evil. And so we don't see eye to eye on that. We're about divided 50-50. And so on. You keep going down the list and there's a division. But when it comes to food, most of my left-leaning friends, Democrats, hippies, whatever, they're friends because of food. That's our common ground. And that's the only thing that we talk about. We're not going to start talking about presidential candidates. I know that their choice of candidate's not going to be the same as mine, and they know the same thing. So we don't go there. Well, what for? But I like them as human beings, and we have something in common. So that terrifies the tyrants because we are united on that. And it's not a left or right issue. It's a right or wrong issue. It's a decision whether or not our government has the right to violate our God-given constitutional rights. They say they do, and they hold on to, well, it's a safety issue, but we're in a position right now where we can speak back to them and say, you can't just say that. You have to prove that. And the evidence, the data that's out there shows that the areas in life that they are supervising, that's where you have problems. Our area over here where we're self-supervising, we're not having any problems. And they're going to say, well, we don't collect any data over there. Well, you sure do get yourself involved in our business a lot. So I think this is a front that we need to come together on, and we really need to go at it, and we can vanquish them. I did see something else just came up in capital letters
Oh,
with my name.
Oh, Paul's a little frustrated because he's not on Facebook, but he'd really love to be part of the tribe. So that's what he was just.
Oh, well, get yourself on.
Understandable.
What? Paul, get with the program here, brother. I mean, this is the 2000s. You got to be on Facebook, man. Everybody's on Facebook. All the cool kids are over on Facebook. I don't know how I wound up on Facebook, to be honest with you. I don't remember ever signing up. I think somebody asked me if I would look at some pictures that they sent. And before I knew it, I was on Facebook. And, well, you know, I mean, I guess there's a lot of bad about it. But also we do get to share a lot of good things on there too. And that's just the way it is right now. That's the way it is. All right. Well, I'm just kind of rambling here, so maybe I will sign off. We had a nice group tonight. I'm glad everybody came. Please go on over to the tribe and sign up. We've had a high percentage of people that have come and joined. So I think we're probably approaching 450 people, but we could be a lot more. There's a function on there where you just scroll through and you invite all of your friends. And what you're doing them a favor, because you're saying, hey, I got this really cool site you could go to. Here it is. So go ahead and do that. It's a force multiplier is what it is. And the stronger the tribe gets, it's an insurance policy against the bad guys. You know, if we're a huge group, they'll leave us alone. Okay, I'm going to sign off for now. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy this. And we didn't even go 2 hours. It's Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, you can farm.
Deborah Evans is on.
Deborah Evans. If you control the fuel, you control the governments. If you control the food, you control the people. Who said that?
Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger. I'm going to call you tomorrow, Deborah Evans. Sayonara.